Hey there, welcome to today's Lunch and Learn session. I'm Richard Cuff, president of CTI Marketing, founder of Nasimba Business Alliance, master greatness coach here at GetReadyForGreatness.com, and host of the podcast, The PS Factor. And just glad to have you along. Thank you guys for coming on board. As we are now up to day 15 of the 21 days to greatness and entering into the first day of our third module, the habits to greatness. So I am going to just begin to share my screen while I prepare to share my screen, I want to tell you where you can log in. Be sure to go to getreadyforgreatness.com. There you can create your free coaching profile to be able to um, get access to information. There are a lot of free resources there that you can connect to, or will be a lot of free resources, I should say, because we're still compiling um, information from our coaches, and there are more and more coaches that are coming into the network. Individuals primarily who have um, usually I'm the ideal coach that I'm looking for to add to the Get Ready for Greatness platform would be that coach that offers some sort of free try it before you buy it, low cost introductory program. You'll find that I have a $49 program, for instance. So that'll be probably the maximum that we will have as far as the introductory offer. There'll be some that may be a little bit more, and certainly if they are charging more, it's well worth it as a trial. So that for instance, you can try my 21 days to greatness for $49 and I just extended it today to 40 days. So you have 40 days to try out the program, see if you like it. If you don't like it, you pay no more than the $49. You keep all of the resources that you gained, the 40 days of training and coaching, and all the resources that you probably will have downloaded by then, and all the connections that you will have made just for $49. That's a deal you certainly are not going to get anywhere else, especially considering that it's introducing you to a coaching package or a coaching process that's as much as 6,649. So yes, it's a that 6,600 may be something that you're not ready to invest in yourself at this moment, and it's understandable. So there's no arm twisting to get you to do that. But there are plenty of resources and there's plenty of value that comes with that program. Obviously, there are some coaches out there that are selling their courses for as much as $30,000, and they're well worth it because they come with the knowledge that they and only they have, and oftentimes it's helping to make all the difference in the world. I myself am working with several of those coaches right now that are helping me to take my program to the next level. Yeah, even the coach needs a coach. So I am growing every step along the way. You see that I'm here with my in my podcasting studio. So this is where I am comfortable. This is my comfort zone, and that's what I'm going to be talking about a little bit today. Uh, we're I've been doing the comfort. I've been on the comfort zone for or the what ultimately the training is the greatness zone. But I've been on that in the speaking of the zones for the last three segments, and I'm going to probably continue for a little while longer, at least through the next couple days, because there's a lot to talk about, a lot to unwrap in that process of going from your comfort zone and not slipping into mediocrity. So to one side, it's as if you're on the top of a mountain and you can slide back toward mediocrity, or you move forward toward the miraculous. And we always want to be leaning toward the miraculous, but not in a sense of where you're always expecting the miraculous. You need, like, I need a miracle today, God. I need a miracle. It's okay to be there, every now and then, but every day should not be that you are chasing a miracle. So we in between that is finding that contentment, that place that says, I am present. I am right now. I'm thinking the way I need to think. I'm doing the things I need to do. I'm accomplishing the things that I need to accomplish. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. Um, let's see. I'm going to start right here. This I want to jump into and sort of today for the first half of the program, I'm going to talk about the crowdfunding and how that works as a part of our Nasimba Business Alliance and the work that we're doing. But before I get started, let me drop this disclaimer here. This information, the information provided in this presentation is for informational and educational purposes only. Should not be considered investment advice, legal advice, tax advice, or any other advice. So, and that's going to be clear. I'll go back through it a little bit later here. In fact, let me go ahead and pull up my screen and share this information with you. And okay, so the Nasimba Business Alliance, the acronym Nasimba is North American Small and Emerging Market Business Association. So that's where we get Nasimba Business Alliance, and the Business Alliance is a network of small and emerging market business owners who are dedicated to doing business with each other at fair market value. So the network is growing out. You may have, if you caught my morning commute this morning, I mentioned that we are now doing a weekly call. In fact, the call tonight, I'm going to go over it in more detail, some of what I'm talking about right now during the luncheon, during this lunch and learn. So if you want to get information on the lunch and learn, or during this lunch and learn, if you get information that you want to hear a little bit more in detail, you definitely want to be on the call tonight at 6 o'clock. Just drop a message in the on the Facebook page, or even at the if you're watching live on YouTube, just drop invite me. On YouTube, you're going to have to put your email address or somewhere that I can get in contact with you. Therefore, I can send you the link. And on Facebook, you just simply put invite me in the comments section, and I'll send the info to you in private message. So let's begin with this disclaimer that I was talking about earlier. The information provided in this presentation is for informational and educational purposes only, and should not be considered investment advice, legal advice, tax advice, or any other advice. CTI Marketing is a subsidiary of Concentel LLC. It's not a registered investment broker or dealer. The information offered in this presentation is not a representation or a solicitation for the purpose or for the purchase or sale of securities. The opinions and information contained in this material is based on sources believed to be reliable and are written in good faith, but no representation or warranty, express or implied, is made as to their accuracy or completeness. Nasimba Business Alliance, Concentel LLC, or its subsidiaries shall not be liable for any loss, monetary or otherwise, that may occur from your reliance on the information presented. Now, if you're okay with that, let's go forward. So I earlier talked about Nasimba, the Business Alliance, but Nasimba is really one of three companies that create what we call the Concentel Mobile Cultural Capital Marketplace. The Cultural Capital Marketplace is a community, first of all, but if you were to think of it in a sense of a target, a circle within a circle within a circle, and you get into that target in the middle. On the outside is the community, and everyone is if everyone is a member of the community. Now, within the community, you have consumers. So what that means is everyone, every consumer is a member of the community, but not every member of the community is a consumer. So if you can see that, then you can move to that next level where if we just look at the consumers, within the consumers, you have customers. So what does that mean? Every customer is a consumer, but not every consumer is a customer. So you can have customers that, well, place where you get your customers are from the consumers, meaning the consumers are people who eat hamburgers. Are they eating your hamburger? No. It's not until they decide to eat your hamburger that they become a customer. But before that, they are consumers. So the consumer, when the consumer becomes your customer, now you want to take that customer to the next level. And that next level relationship is a client. What's the difference between a customer and a client? Is some sort of contractual agreement or some sort of agreement of exclusivity. So that client is working only with you in that moment. Now that moment can be from the beginning of the job till the end of the job. But what that means is they are your customer, yes, but specifically they are your client. So every client is a customer, but not every customer is a client. So now when you bring that customer to the client level, that's a signed contractual agreement, some sort of project, the time, the cost, the duration is set, how often you're going to do it, all of that. And usually what that means is this customer is depending on you and only you for that moment. And that's what takes it to a client relationship. So you're going by and you're cutting someone's grass and they pay you $45 to cut the grass. They're your customer. But you come back on a regular basis every 2 weeks without them asking you to come back. You send them an invoice, they pay that invoice without questioning the bill. That's a client relationship now. So you can see where we go from community member to consumer, consumer to customer, customer to client. Now within that client is your contributor. And this is the magic in this economy that we're in right now is people are going to be, businesses specifically are going to begin to get creative as to how they are coming up with capital. And one of the best ways to come up with capital is to turn your client into a contributor. When someone is convinced that your services solve their problem, chances are they're ready to talk about your services to someone else. Chances are they're ready to recommend you, write a referral or do a testimonial. And more than likely, they are willing to contribute to helping you accomplish your goal within your business. So to that client that's going to pay you $1,200 over the next 12 weeks because they're paying you $100 a week, you, rather than waiting for $100 a week, you may be able to go to that client and say to that client, will you contribute to my business? I know over the next 12 weeks, you're going to be paying me $1,200, but if you pay $500 or if you write me a check for $750, I'll do the entire 12 weeks. So you'll save $450. The client may well want to do that. Now, will they do it because they believe in your business or because they're getting a discount? More than likely, they're going to do it because they can see that they're getting a discount. But what have you done? You've turned your client into a contributor. So that contributor now is helping you to build your business, and you can do that over and over again. So what's in essence, the ultimate relationship is the relationship of a contributor, that person who is putting something in your business, capital, money, resources, and that you can then turn around and use to grow your business and give them some sort of a return. Now, that's going to lay the foundation for what we're going to be talking about in today's session. As I do a deep dive into equity-based crowdfunding, and ultimately, these three companies work together. CTI Marketing does the marketing. Concentel Mobile is a tech company, and it's our customer service department. So Concentel Mobile handles the customer service, and then there's Nasemba Business Alliance, and this is the alliance of all of our certified and licensed professionals. These are the financial managers, the CPAs, the attorneys, the accountants, the ones that have some sort of accreditation, some sort of license, some sort of governing body that holds their feet to the fire. Um, Most people are not aware of the benefit of having a realtor, especially a real estate broker, to broker a deal for you. One of those major benefits is that they put their license on the line to make certain that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. So when you hire a realtor, yes, you're going to give up maybe 6%. You could probably negotiate it down to 3% of the price that if you're selling your house, but that realtor is going to make certain that you get the best price and that all the bases are covered and that there are no surprises at the end of the deal when you come to the closing table. Why? Because their license is on the line. And that's the benefit of working with a licensed professional. Also, as you saw, I did in the disclaimer, um, it's clear where there is no license, and I make it clear that I am not the licensed professional. So anything that I talk about in this presentation, be sure to go and talk to your licensed professional before you talk about implementing any of this next segment in your life. So the Concentel Mobile Cultural Capital Marketplace is this place where everybody from community member all the way to contributor and everybody in between are all treated exactly the same. And this is what makes the cultural capital marketplace different than a traditional marketplace. Usually, a traditional marketplace is going after one type of individual. Wall Street is a marketplace that's going after accredited investors who are buying and selling stock in businesses. That's that marketplace. You're not going to go there and find that they're selling, uh, um, carpet or paintings or anything. It's not a flea market, so it's nothing. It's nothing like that. It's specifically stocks and bonds that are being traded. There are other markets that sell things specifically. The real estate market. It's property, houses, land, dirt. That's what's being sold. So you're not going to find people standing in the middle of a lot selling shares of stock as they would in a stock market. So each one of these markets are different. What makes the Concentel Mobile Cultural Capital Marketplace unique is that all of the above can be there. And it is possible. Now, I'm going to show you a little bit later the infrastructure. So the question that I want to ask is, though, are you ready for the next crowdfunding billionaire? And are you ready for that one to step up? Concentel Mobile Cultural Capital Marketplace is here to usher in that next crowdfunding billionaire. So the unicorns are coming. A unicorn is a startup company valued at over $1 billion when it hits IPO level. Um, I, there are certain companies that are at $1 billion right now. Quite a few $1 billion companies out there, but it's unique that a company is a $1 billion company at IPO. So those are called unicorns, and those are the ones that are making, when there's $1 billion being created or generated on the day that that stock is sold, that means that there are hundreds and maybe even thousands of millionaires that are created in the process as well. So the crowdfunding is the future. So let's talk about that. We're gonna talk about crowdfunding in general, and we're going to talk about how the 2012 Jobs Act changed the whole world of investing. And then we're going to also ask that question, is crowdfunding right for you? And if so, where to begin? So crowdfunding is changing the way funding gets done. Right now, we're seeing just how um, with the $350 billion that was put out for small businesses, you saw how fast it was gone in like a week, 2 weeks. They like literally, we have no more money, the federal government says, to lend out. And then we start hearing stories like companies like Steak and Shake uh, got $10 million, and Ruth Chris got 20 million. And 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 you go, wait, that's 30 million right there just between two restaurants. The most risky businesses on earth, in essence, got the most money. And and yet there are hundreds of other small businesses, thousands of small businesses even, that could have used that $20 million, $10,000 here and there to get over and get through these next 6 months. Who needs $20 million in the next 6 months but these really big companies? But what could $20 million, $30 million do over the next 6 months if it were divided up into companies that only needed $10,000 to tide them over, to just make enough to keep 2 or 3 employees on? There are hundreds of thousands of businesses in that level, but those are not the ones that are getting the money. So crowdfunding is changing the way funding is done, because it looks at the traditional funding sources and says, well, what can we do that those sources are not doing? Business banking, venture capitalists, and angel investors are now coming to one marketplace. Back, as I was saying, the cultural capital marketplace is bringing all of these people together now in a way that it has never done before. And it's because of the power of crowdfunding. So let's just look at what crowdfunding looks like. If you've heard of GoFundMe. GoFundMe is a donation-based crowdfund platform. In essence, someone created a software that took what you and I probably have grown up with. If you ever went to church, especially a black church, and you sat there and they passed that plate, sometimes I went to a church that we did 3 different offerings. And so the way that it went for me was like, you had $10, you kind of like had a 5 and 5 ones, and the 5 was the big offering, and then you put maybe $3 in this next one and $2 in that last one, because you were spreading that $10 out, and you that's how you did it. That's what the offering was about. And then you watch them go in that room and in the back, and they're going to go count up that money. Well, and that happens every Sunday in your church with 1,000 people there in church. And then you're blown away to think, wow, you mean if 1,000 people are giving just $100 a month, in 10 months, the church has raised $1 million? Yeah, that's how the church is able to do these huge building projects, that people donate and that money is used towards something else. Well, that's what crowdfunding is all about. That's called donation-based crowdfunding. And it's just simply a one-way street. I'm going to put my money into this basket, and I'm not expecting anything to come back, except that this entity that raised these funds they're going to use it for what they said they were going to use it for: build a playground for the kids, replace the back porch of this senior citizen's home that was destroyed when a tree fell on it, that kind of thing. So as we are dealing with right now, you can bet more and more GoFundMe pages are going to be started because of the financial situations that a lot of people find themselves in. By the way, the federal government gave the green light to donation-based crowdfunding, didn't challenge it. The IRS didn't come and shut down GoFundMe the way that they came after the Bitcoin companies, because Primarily, the money that was donated was after-tax dollars. And if you weren't asking for a write-off for your donation, the IRS is saying, we ain't, whoever you give your money to is up to you. So it's after-tax money. So there's some restrictions from gifting people money, but that number is pretty big that you can give to your children before you have to worry about paying taxes, or they have to worry about taxes. The next type of crowdfunding is reward-based crowdfunding. Now, rewards um, work a lot different than donation-based crowdfunding, because now you're making some sort of a promise of return. And this is where the IRS started saying, well, let's kind of look at that, because a person can give $50, and it's possible that they could get $100 worth of value, of which they could then go and sell it for $100 and make $50. Now they're making more money than they put in, or there may be the promise that you could make more money. So it could be that this is about to go the route of a Ponzi scheme or network marketing. And I don't want to put network marketing, pyramid scheme, Ponzi scheme all in the same. I don't want to put them there in the sense that to say that all of it is bad. There are some horrible, nightmarish things that have taken place with network marketing. Many people have gotten involved with network marketing because of the reward that was promised. If you do this, you'll get that. Well, the problem with that is when you don't get that, who are you calling? You're calling the federal government, you're lodging a complaint, the state is getting involved. Now you want to bring all of these organizations into your mess because you got involved in some sort of a scheme. Well, the federal government says, okay, before you end up calling us, we're going to put some regulations in place. But here is where the crowdfund industry, I think, made the best move. Right there, the lobbyists within the crowdfunding, two people in particular, sorry, I can't remember either of the guys' names, but they were the pioneers of reaching out to Congress to get Congress to start writing legislation that literally regulated the crowdfunding industry. And that was pretty much unheard of when a group is taking the initiative to reach out to the government, the federal government at that, and say to the federal government, we need for you to regulate what we are doing so that we can that we can take what we're doing, and we want you to regulate it so that you can go in and tell us what are the guidelines. And that was a great thing, because it meant that people were not going to be getting involved in this particular kind of crowdfunding and later find out that they had broken a law that wasn't clear from the very beginning. So now, while legislation was being written, the IRS again is saying, okay, well, reward-based crowdfunding is okay. So they gave that the green light. But then it went to the next level of crowdfunding, and that's debt-based crowdfunding. This is now where the IRS and the federal government want to start saying, whoa, wait a minute, now we're getting into an area that we feel like there needs to be some restrictions, because people can truly lose a lot of money. And the idea with debt-based crowdfunding is that there's a pool in the middle where the crowd is putting their money with a promise that some governing body is going to take that money and lend it out to small businesses. So that's in essence what we're doing with the cultural capital marketplace. Our investors are putting money into the pool, and we're taking that money, $50,000, and we're able to take $50,000 and break it up into 100 small $500 microloans. So now that we're able to give out 100 microloans, the group that put the $50,000 in is able now to say, if we're able to tell the group we're going to put out those microloans at 16% interest, and and the individuals are going to pay that back, the federal government is going to say to us, well, you can do it with a certain limit, and this is how much money you can do, and but you have to register it with the state and go through all these kinds of things. Well, suddenly debt-based crowdfunding um, was viable, and it took off because once those regulations were written, you started getting companies that used it for real estate primarily. It wasn't used for businesses in general. The reason why it was so attractive to real estate and realtors was because you had something to back up the money. So as if we're going to use $50,000 to buy a property that's worth $80,000, and we can do that all day long because there's more than enough equity or more than enough value in the business to cover the loss. And so you started seeing real estate companies take off. I mean, there are a couple companies here in Jacksonville that became very, very successful using debt-based crowdfunding, where they went to the crowd, they borrowed the money, they went and bought the houses and paid back the loan, because that money that created and freed up revenue. And now the next level of crowdfunding was, and again, the IRS would say, okay, we're going to go through that with caution. The next level was royalty-based crowdfunding. Royalty-based crowdfunding works sort of like reward-based crowdfunding, but the reward, rather than with like reward-based crowdfunding says, and I'll go back a little bit here. Reward-based crowdfunding says, if you help me with my album or help me fund writing my book, it's going to cost $15,000 to write the book, have the money for the tour. We want to wrap a bus. We want to do all these other things with it, but this is why we need $15,000. And what we're going to do is this is for everyone who donates $50, you'll get a signed copy of the book, you'll get a t-shirt, and you'll get a ticket to my private reading or whatever the case is. Or you'll get a front row seat at the premiere of the reading when I get 12 actors to stand on stage and read. Whatever the reward is, there's some sort of reward that's given. But what the federal government says is that reward, however, cannot be or should not be valued at more than what the individual has paid. Again, you don't want to create a situation where that person is able to pay $50, get $500 worth of stuff, and go and sell it and make a profit that the IRS can't tax. So that's what that was about. But the royalty-based crowdfunding works the same way as reward-based crowdfunding, except that the reward in this case is attached to the amount of dollars I make as opposed to the amount of product. So now, if I can say for every $10,000 I make, you'll make $1, or you'll make 2 cents, you'll make 10 cents, 10%, 5%, whatever that amount is, there's a royalty that's paid on the dollar. So every time a dollar is made, some sort of royalty is paid. A dollar is made, a royalty is paid. Now, that's probably out of all of the crowdfunding possibilities, royalty-based crowdfunding is the one that is least desirable. And think about it. Do you want to give somebody a promise of getting a royalty of 10% of every dollar that you ever make? Every dollar? That every time you make $1, they want their dime? And whether it goes up or down, they want their dime. And that can get to be a major problem, especially when there's no exit strategy, no limit to that. And most people who are looking for royalties or looking for a return of some sort, they are not looking to put a limit on it. You know, who would want to limit their royalty check? I know I wouldn't. Hey, Richard, you can get a royalty check but we're going to end it in 6 months. Then why would I get excited about that? So you want that royalty check to keep coming. Now, royalties on things that you own that's one of the streams of income. We've talked about that before, and that's that's the highest level for me. That's the ultimate when you get a royalty income. Michael Jackson's children will see a check for the rest of their life from their dad's music. Elvis Presley, he's making more money in his death than he ever made alive. So there's royalties that you get from properties that you own, IP, intellectual properties. But in this particular case, royalty-based crowdfunding, it's probably not the most favored. But here's the one that I see is the most promising, and that's equity-based crowdfunding, because here is where President Obama signed the Jobs Act in 2012. JOB stands for Jumpstart Our Business Startups. It's not it's not as much about jobs as in labor as as it is about access to capital. So if businesses, the idea is that if businesses have access to capital, they can hold on to the jobs. And that's what you're hearing now in this stimulus. We'll put out $2 trillion if you use this money to create jobs. Well, that's what was supposed to happen in 2017 with the 1.6 trillion dollar tax cut that we paid for. And those companies took that money and they went and bought back their shares of stock. So they actually, it became crowdfunding, but it was just for a small crowd. Just a couple of people was able to take their money and make lots of money on top of money. So this wealth gap is getting bigger and bigger. And part of the reason is because of the ability to get equity in a company as that company is getting off the ground. I'll give you a perfect example is Snap, the company that created the app Snapchat. A couple years back, 5 years or so, the Snap was going through its first round of funding. If you guys have heard that term before, you listen to the evening news, company XYZ has raised $5 million in their first round of funding. And I would hear that and go, first round of funding? How you go? Why is it special to raise $5 million in your first round? And I've been around 1,000 times and I haven't raised $5 million. Well, that first round of funding is the first registered round. It's what's called a Reg A, B, or C. Usually they start off with Reg A, and there is there was another regulation, in fact, that the Jobs Act added, and also there's now Regulation Crowdfund or Title III of the Regulation Crowdfund. So the regulation that created the crowdfund, Title III, specifically allows for a company to sell shares of stock through a crowdfund platform such as a GoFundMe. Well, prior to that, this company, Snap, went and knocked on the doors of accredited investors. What does that mean? Individuals that earn $200,000 a year and have done so for at least the previous 2 years, this year, and will do it next year. That's an accredited investor. I don't know how the federal government figures if you make $200,000, you must be smart, but that's basically what they did. If you have the money, it means you're smart enough to manage the money. So you could have Snap knock on your door. And the company Snap knocked on the door of this private school that they were accredited investors because the school itself was worth more than $3 million. So I'd imagine their board agreed to invest $15,000 into Snap and receive 1.5 million shares at a penny a share. So they took those 1.5 million shares at a penny a share with their $15,000 investment, held on to it for 5 years. Lo and behold, 5 years later, Snap becomes, and I don't think Snap was quite a unicorn when they reached their IPO round of funding. And that means you go to the Wall Street stock market and you're selling your shares of stock. Now they're on their maybe second or their third, maybe even their fourth round now. And now they're selling stock to the public, to the general public. You, me, Joe the plumber can now buy these stocks. And on day one, they sold their shares for $24 a share. So what did that mean? Private school that bought 1.5 million shares decided they were going to keep 500,000 shares, but they were going to sell 1 million shares at $24 a share. That means that $10,000, 10,000 pennies that they paid for the stock 5 years earlier, they turned around and sold it on Wall Street for $24 million. Flipped $10,000 to 24 million. That's every $1,000 they made 2.4 million. Every $100, a $100 bill invested in Snap would have returned you $240,000. Now, how many times do you want to do that? Guess what? Before 2012, it was illegal for you to do it. That's what the Jobs Act changed. When President Obama signed the Jobs Act, he literally propped the door open and kept it so it wouldn't close, that you could get in on these ground floor opportunities. And that's what we're talking about today. So equity-based crowdfunding allows you now to buy shares of stock. There are certain limitations that you must adhere to. But for the most part, the 2012 Jobs Act is the most significant change, most significant changes in security laws in nearly 80 years. It's huge. So it frees up capital, and by freeing up capital, it creates jobs. But the key to creating jobs is that it creates jobs at this small level where we know when 10,000, when $300,000, $500,000 goes to this small company, that this small company now has the money and it's going to expand, not by buying back its shares, it's going to expand by actually hiring people. So is crowdfunding right for you? Well, how do you, if you can say that you need capital to grow your business, yes, crowdfunding is right for you. Will you survive the Shark Tank? If you will survive the Shark Tank, meaning that you can deal with these investors who are going to ask you these pressing questions, then yes, it is right for you. Do you have a community that will support your capital raising efforts? And this is probably the biggest one of all. And it's where our cultural capital marketplace comes in, simply because what I saw was and I worked for 2 years as East Coast Regional Marketing Director for a company called Breakaway Funding. And my job was to help put together the offerings, help the entrepreneur go through the process and communicate with the banks, that had 10 billion in funding or more, and show those banks how by setting aside just 10% or even 1%, 1 penny out of every dollar would put $100 million, $10 million aside that would go specifically to these small businesses that have all come through this incubator that we've created. But the challenge was, I'll leave this slide here for a second. The challenge was that the entrepreneur, after going through our process, was unable to go and get a community behind him. Why? Because he had not focused on attracting people. Now he's out trying to get people to come to the website to donate or to buy shares of stock, but nobody knows who he is. Nobody knows the business. Why? Because he should have spent, 24 months to 3 years, maybe even 4 years, building up an audience, building up people who are going to get behind him. You had 1,000 people that are waiting to put their money in. Man, they can save $25 a week for 40 weeks. 1,000 people saving $25 a week, just $25 a week, $5 a day, Monday through Friday. At the end of 40 weeks, they each have $1,000. That's 1,000 people with $1,000. That's your $1 million that you will raise with just your community. Is that community a church? Is it your local labor union? Is it your scout league, or is whatever it is? Wherever you're getting those 1,000 people, that's not a lot of people, but it's $1 million. And that's the power of crowdfunding. So are you ready for the next crowdfunding billionaire? And this is how our program works. We have our One Vision reward card, and that's your passport into the cultural capital marketplace. You can put money on the card. In fact, I think it was 2000 and what was the last year of the One Spark Festival that they would have downtown. We unveiled the One Vision reward card. It wasn't successful at all, the because we came in at the tail end when the crowdfunding festival was falling apart. But we used the One Vision reward card because the card allows individuals to accrue points, and then those points can be pooled together to do social good. And one of the good things that came out of the card was that we were able to fund a program called Guiding Success, a kindergarten to college pathway initiative, where we the only program that teaches 3 and 4 year olds to play violin in preschool. But you could also raise the use crowdfunding to raise the money to go through the business incubator um, that you would come out and be able to go into your second, third, and fourth round of funding. So that also helps. And then, of course, with the support of the members of NASIMBA Business Alliance, you are going to be quite successful. So I'm gonna put these up. These are the seven. This is the 7-stage consultation process, all the way from visualization all the way to uh, 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 evaluation. And one of the things that I want to emphasize here, I did a pretty detailed explanation of this over the previous 2 days, so you can go back and watch that. But the process of getting to evaluation takes you across this stage right here, where implementation leads to what I call control. But I like to pause there for a minute and say control is a myth. It's something you think you have until the moment you lose it. So it shouldn't be control, it should be preparation. And then you go all the way down to evaluation. What's the key to being successful here is to create the list. It's a list of 7 items, a 7-point checklist that's going to follow you all the way through each of these 7 steps. The list itself does not change. So whatever you visualize at the beginning, you move into the consultation stage. And when it comes time to plan, what are you going to plan around? Those 7 things on that list. What are you going to implement? Each of the 7 things on that list. What are you going to prepare for? Any eventuality as it relates to what could go wrong with the 7 things on that list. How do I know I've reached completion? I check off the things on the list. It's time to evaluate. What do I use to evaluate the process? The list. That list is so powerful when it works with these 7 stages of this consultation process. So I have offered this process and a 3-year contract for $30,000 a year, and it's work. But what I decided to do was create a smaller process that would allow an entrepreneur to go through that same $30,000 process for far less, for as little as $1,600. They're able to go through a smaller version of the process and take a little bit of time to build that community that's going to support them in this crowdfund effort. So the way that the process looks, those are the price. That's the pricing right there that you can see. As you're going up the ladder, you can make a determination when you're ready to move to the next level. Not every business is able to start and write a check for $1,600, and I'm going to show you how that process works in just in the next set of slides here. So where do you begin? You begin with what we call an individual development account. You open this account. It begins with $49 onto the reward card, and you get reward points. Now you're earning points as you shop, and you're converting these points back into cash and cash into points. And so as you're moving along, you end up creating a savings account of $2,500. That $2,500 gets matched through our program with $3,500, and now you've got $6,000. that you can use to start your business. And this money is then the funding that will get you through that first incubator year, maybe the first 2 years, depending on how you structure your business. So let's look at the traditional business model real quick. In the traditional business model, you're the business owner, you have the product or the service. We talk about the Pareto principle where 80% of your focus will be on your product and service, but 20% of your focus is going to be marketing, accounting, and customer service. What does that mean? The flip. If 80% is on the product or the service, then that means it's only responsible for just 20% of your success. However, with 20% over on the marketing, accounting, and customer service side, it's actually responsible for 80%. So shouldn't your focus be over there on marketing, accounting, and customer service? What's a business to do? Here's what they do. They hire a staff. And again, that's where this equity-based crowdfunding is so powerful, because once the business is infused with capital, they use that capital to hire a staff. The problem though is staffing your company is pretty expensive. Just someone, if you're paying $36,000 is probably a quarter of what you need to pay for a really good marketing and management director. Certainly accounting and bookkeeping, you're going to pay far more than $1,500 if you're trying to do it in-house. And then customer service, $1,600 a month. You're up to now $7,200 or $73,000 or $6,100 a month. $73,200 annually. So what our system does is allows you to focus on your product or service while we focus on the marketing, accounting, and customer service. We plug in our software, we cut your expenses in half, and now you're paying, and if we got you down to where you're paying just $2,950 a month, you're saving over $35,000 annually. Your cost is just $35,000. You're doing okay, right? So our cultural capital marketplace serves to position you now so that you can focus on what you went into business to do. Now, if we can get that cost down to $295 a month, you're only paying about $3,500 a year. That's a big difference from $73,000. That's what this is about. You getting involved and understanding what crowdfunding does and the impact that it's going to have on raising capital, how the Jobs Act works, and understanding if crowdfunding is right for you. So this is where you begin. With these three companies working together, CTI Marketing, Concentel Mobile, and Nisimba Business Alliance. Let's do this. I want to jump over to the Get Ready for Greatness component real quick here. And we're going to talk about, let me stop sharing my screen for a second, and I'll come back to the Get Ready for Greatness component. But if at this moment, if you haven't done so, please log on to getreadyforgreatness.com, create your free coaching profile, go to richardcuff.com and save that site, because that's going to always bring you back to my Get Ready for Greatness YouTube channel. Do subscribe to the channel and like the video and ring that bell so that you will get notifications every time I post a new video. And then you can, and also you can go back and watch all the videos I'll post. I'm doing some work on the morning commutes as well, and have some fun with producing those. And also log on to the psfactor.com. That's the podcast. So I'll probably take the rest of this month to start before I begin to put up new episodes of the PS Factor. But we've got some great things going. I'm really changing the format and putting together the team. I've got some great people working behind the scenes to make everything work. So you're going to see those changes start to come up very soon. So let's go and finish with the second segment here. As I'm going to share my screen with you guys so that you can see the Get Ready for Greatness, the PS Factor, 21 Days to Greatness. We're talking about the talking, let's see, go here. We're talking about the the greatness zone, and we are, well, it's seven steps to overcoming adversity. Actually, we're into the new segment today, which is 7 habits to greatness. But let's talk about the greatness zone and what it looks like. Outside the greatness zone is the mediocrity zone, or before you even get to your comfort zone, is you slide away from that comfort zone, you're into mediocrity. But you move from mediocrity, you find your comfort zone, then you move to the fear zone and into the knowledge zone, the growth zone. We hit that miraculous zone. And I kind of put mediocrity and the miraculous zone, they're sort of like they're the glue in between each of the zones. You know, there's a space in between where if you, as you're moving from the comfort zone to the fear zone, you can fall into mediocrity, or you can step into miracles. It just, is it miracles? Is it mediocrity? It's all depends on the way that you're looking at it when you are there. Your, what's called your frame of reference or reference frames. So let's talk about the comfort zone. The comfort zone, in your comfort zone, you know you are in your comfort zone when you feel confident, safe, serene, secure. You don't want to leave it, baby. It's like, no, can I just stay here and soak up the moment? That's what the comfort zone feels like. But life happens, and suddenly you're shaken up and waking up, and you pushed out of that comfort zone into that fear zone where you realize you lack self-confidence. Again, I'll just reiterate this. Marcus Garvey said, if you have no confidence in self, you are twice defeated in the race of life. But with confidence, you have won even before you started. So you also find yourself seeking approval. You're affected by the opinions of others. You're finding excuses. That's the fear zone. But you move out of that fear zone, past mediocrity and miracles, and you get into that knowledge zone. You learn from your mistakes, deal with the challenges that you face, acquire new skills. You find contentment. There's a great verse, Bible verse that says, I've learned whatsoever state I'm in, therewith to be content. This is knowledge. You know, wisdom is the principal thing, but with all that getting, get understanding. So knowledge, wisdom, we perish for a lack of knowledge. And we get to this knowledge zone and we're not prepared. So we don't learn from our mistakes. We don't know how to deal with challenges. We don't care to acquire new skills. We find it difficult to find contentment. We're always uneasy, always searching, but never finding, because we're not in a position to learn. And that's what going through these challenges in life is all about, to get you past the knowledge zone and into the growth zone, where you find your purpose, set new goals, conquer your past, live your dreams. And then when you push past that, past mediocrity, outside that is this zone. This, my friend, right here, you're headed toward your comfort, out of your comfort zone, and you're headed toward the greatness zone. Now, you're not quite there. Along the way, you're going to find miracles. Along the way, you're going to hit fear, knowledge, growth, mediocrity, all those zones you have to pass to get to this zone. But once you are here, then you can begin to focus on what you are good at. And then the next thing you're going to focus on is what you're passionate about. And then ultimately, what does success look like for you? And once you find that mix, you're going to strive for that common area right there in the middle. And that common area is what we call your greatness zone. And then there you can begin to brainstorm your options. This is what I talk about OQP, surrounding yourself with OQP, only quality people, people who have those 9 character traits, but you should also have them within yourself. Fear God, love the truth, hate covetousness, dependable, loyal, capable, positive mental attitude, willing to go the extra mile, faith. All 9 of those characteristics of OQP are present and accounted for within you. and they're present and accounted for within all the people that are around you. At that point, from that point, you just select the best option for you, you build your plan, and you go for it. So let's wrap this thing up by talking about the 7 habits to greatness. I want to just add, you know, the 7 habits are one of the 3 components of the 21 days to greatness. So we're day 15 today, which is the starting the first day of the last 7 days. And but prior to this, we went through the 7 stage, or the progressive mindset theory, where we went from that caveman mentality with a fearful mindset all the way up to the Christ-like mentality and a servant mindset. Then the ultimate one is to have the mind of God. The Bible says, "Let this mind that was in Christ Jesus be also in you." That should be your ultimate goal. First Thessalonians 4:11 and 12 says, "Make this your ultimate goal, to lead a quiet life, to mind your own business, to work with your hands, just as we told you to do, so that in doing so, you may win the respect of outsiders and you won't be dependent on anybody." These 7 habits are the habits that help you constantly keep those things churning within you, and that you're not getting disrupted along the way. So we talked about thoughts versus emotions, that thoughts are things, and an emotion is an extremely fast subconscious evaluation of the situation. But we also we're talking about how these 6 emotions, surprise, well, 7 actually, because the one emotion that kind of sits out there by itself is surprise. That's the one that wakes you up. Paul Ekman, he says he says there are micro expressions on the person's face that if you know these expressions, you can tell what that person is feeling on the inside from an emotional standpoint. Surprise is this one that wakes everybody up, and then the tendency is now to drive toward go that fight or flight response. You go to the right, you can fly. Go to the left, it's fight. Which one is it going to be? Is it coming to you from the right or the left? Is it going to be fight or flight? Your emotions are going to kick in. It's going to be fear or anger, or it's going to be joy or sadness, or it's going to be disgust, enough to make you want to change within yourself, or it's going to be contempt that makes you look outside yourself and hate whatever it is in somebody else. And that's where you begin to project. When you hate so much in this person, you don't even know their full name, but you hate them just because you hate them. And you find contempt in people. And that's the farthest extreme over on surprise. At least surprise wakes you up. I think contempt puts you to sleep. You become that walking zombie, that racist for no reason whatsoever, that xenophobe. You're saying nasty things for no reason whatsoever. You're just that way because you don't know how to get out of it. Well, this first habit is going to do that. 7 habits to greatness. 7 habits to greatness. This course overview, I should say, is going to help you understand the significance of balancing quality relationships with an effective and efficient use of your time. And also, you're going to learn how to manage physical and spiritual resources in order to reach your goals and achieve greatness. William Shakespeare said this: some people are born great, some achieve greatness, some have greatness thrust upon them. This Matthew 18:21 and 22, then Peter came and asked, "Lord, how often should I forgive someone who sins against me? 7 times? No, not 7 times, Jesus replied, but 70 times 7. That's 490 times. Now, I was a kid. I was like, Mama, that's a lot of forgiving. The question is, why should I be forgiving that much? Or is that a lot? The It's not that this person is so bad that they need that much forgiving. It's forgiving is that important that you should do it that many times that it becomes a habit through repetition. You should make forgiveness a habit. By making forgiveness a habit, you're able to understand this. This Isaiah 58:6 says, "Is not this fast that I have chosen to loose the bands of wickedness, to undo heavy burdens, to let the oppressed go free, that you break every yoke." That's what the habit of forgiving is about. It's about setting you free. It's not about them. It's about how fast can I loose the bands of wickedness? How fast can I undo this heavy burden that has been placed on me? How fast can I set the captives free? Me, my emotions, my thoughts, my feelings. How fast can I break every yoke? And how fast can I get beyond this point where I am challenged? First Peter 3:9 says, "Do not return evil for evil or railing for railing, but contrariwise be a blessing. For in doing so, you shall inherit a blessing." That's what forgiving is all about. It's about releasing you, setting you free, getting this burden off of you. Will this person apologize? It's not about whether he or she apologizes. It's about whether or not you are walking around with these chains on you that you cannot be free to move to the next level. Tomorrow, what we're going to talk about is the habit of releasing, because that's what comes next. But think on that. Think on the habit of forgiving. Think on what it means to forgive. That and why 490 times you should forgive, because that it has to become a habit where it gets drilled in continually and you do it without thought, and then you're able to be free to move on to the next blessing and the next blessing and the next blessing and the next blessing and the next blessing. And before you know it, you're so far removed from that thing that was trying to get you all bound up, distracted, tied up in a knot. You're able to breathe freely and enjoy life. So that's what this is all about. Guys, I really appreciate you hanging out with me for this extended version of today's Lunch and Learn workshop. I really wanted to cover um, everything that we talked about. Thank you for hanging out. Remember tonight, if you are interested in the being a part of the call tonight at 6 o'clock Monday, we'll do the call every Monday night at 6. Just drop a message to me, Facebook, either through Get Ready for Greatness or through my personal page here on Facebook, and just simply say, invite me, and I'll get the link over to you, and then look forward to having you on the call that we can go a little bit more into detail. I'll talk more about the numbers and how things look, and so that you can see what this process will look like for you in moving your business to the next level. So until tomorrow, same time, guys, we'll be on. I'll make it a point to be around somewhere around 1:30 here on the East Coast, 10:30 West Coast is our Lunch and Learn session. So till then, take care.